Remember that 4,500-pound rock we just talked about? The one that tried to backflip if you pull too hard and carried unguided nuclear rockets? Yeah. Now, imagine flying that same airplane, unarmed, straight into enemy airspace at low altitude with nothing but cameras and no way to fight back. This is the RF-101 Voodoo. Most stories have another side. This one's just a little stranger. I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. Alright, so since you stuck with me through the F-101 story, you're going to appreciate this one, because the Air Force looked at the same Voodoo, big, fast, a little unstable, occasionally violent, and said, you know what this needs? Take the weapons out. I'm serious. No guns, no missiles, no genie, just cameras. They ripped out the radar, pulled the cannons, and rebuilt the nose to carry up to 6 large format cameras. And just like that, the Voodoo became the RF-101, the world's first supersonic photo reconnaissance jet. And if that sounds like a bad idea, that's because it kind of was. Because now you've got this aircraft that already had a reputation for trying to bite its own pilots, and you're sending it alone into the most heavily defended airspace on the planet, with no way to defend itself. There's a saying among recon pilots, alone, unarmed, and unafraid. And one RF-101 pilot reportedly added, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Now, before they ever sent these things into combat, they had to prove one thing. Could it actually do the job? So, in 1957, they ran Operation Sun Run, and yeah, we touched on this before, but this time, you're looking at it from the recon side. RF-101s launching from Los Angeles, crossing the country, refueling in midair at 35,000 feet, all while cruising just under Mach 1. 26 aerial refuelings. Think about that. This wasn't just speed, this was endurance. One pilot flew LA to New York and back in under 7 hours, which basically told the world, if we need pictures, we're getting pictures. And then came 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is where things stop being impressive and start being critical, because high-altitude photos weren't enough. They needed low-level confirmation, close-up, undeniable. So RF-101 pilots were sent in, right on the deck. We're talking 200 to 250 feet off the ground, at speeds pushing over 600 knots. And there was a problem. The cameras weren't designed for that. At those speeds, that altitude, everything just blurred. So the Air Force did something you don't see very often. They went to the Navy and said, hey, we need your help. They borrowed different cameras, smaller, faster, designed for low-level work, and suddenly the images came through crystal clear. And during one of those missions, a Voodoo pilot flew so low over Cuba, he nearly took out a volleyball game mid-serve. That's not a metaphor. That actually happened. The intelligence they brought back was so important, President John F. Kennedy personally recognized the unit. And just like that, the RF-101 proved its value. But the missions didn't get any safer, because by the time you get to Vietnam, these aircraft were flying some of the most dangerous profiles imaginable. Night operations, crews climbing into aircraft under floodlights, maintenance crews loading equipment, flash cartridges going into pods, engines lighting off in the dark, then takeoff, afterburners glowing, that long fuselage lifting into the night, and then nothing but sky, until it's time to go low, because the RF-101 pilots had to invent new tactics just to survive. One of them was called the pop-up maneuver. They'd come in low, right above the trees, then suddenly climb, snap their photos, and dive right back down before the missiles could react. It was fast, violent, precise, and at night, it got even crazier. They ran something called Project Toy Tiger. The aircraft carried photoflash cartridges, basically giant airborne flashbulbs. The pilot would drop them over the target. They'd ignite, light up the entire area, and, in a brief moment, the cameras would capture everything, and then the sky would go dark again. Except now, everyone knew exactly where you were. And through all of this, the Voodoo kept doing what it always did. It pushed limits. You remember Jim Brickell from the first video? The guy who called flying the Voodoo flying in a barrel. That wasn't theory. In 1967, he was flying an RF-101 over North Vietnam, took a direct hit, his aircraft was shredded, and instead of ejecting, he kept going, finished the mission, captured full photographic coverage, and somehow got the airplane home. That earned him the Air Force Cross, because that's what these missions demanded. By the late 1960s, the RF-101 was starting to show its age. Newer aircraft like the RF-4C Phantom began taking over, and eventually, the Longbird faded out of frontline service, but not before leaving behind a legacy that's easy to overlook, because in a time when everything was about speed, power, and weapons, the RF-101 proved something else mattered just as much: seeing, understanding, knowing what was actually out there. And when you think about it, standing next to one of these today, it hits a little differently, because that same aircraft we just talked about, the one that carried nuclear rockets, also flew missions completely defenseless, relying on nothing but speed and the people in the cockpit. And somehow, that might be the craziest part of the whole story. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.